Rod Stapley, and I'm 76, and I started there, I think it was 64 or 65. Well, no, I was a roofer, and I got married to the caretaker's daughter. And he said to me one day, you spend a lot of time away from home. So I said, yeah, well, that's my job, you know, I travel wherever the work is, I go. So anyway, he had a word with somebody in Parsons, and I got an interview with Reg Martin. And I finished up getting half the wages and working for F J Parsons, which was one of the best jobs I've ever had.
Vic Shellcraft, I'm now 90, and I started there in August 1950. Well, I went to the Labour Exchange because I'd applied before to see if they were going to work, because I was on the railway and it meant travelling every day. And when the bloke said, no, I only want to know if you're looking for a job. So he got a mouthful off me because I'd lost a day's work. And he said, well, did I know, was I a telex operator in the Navy? I said, no. He said, but anyway, they want some staff up at the Parsons. Go up and see what it's like. So I went up and saw George did. I said, did he want any references? He said, no. And he took me on as a machine minder's assistant. Well, you know, I don't know what day it was, but then I started the following week.
My name is Frank Stanley Titchband, Tichband, only one T, and that's to start with. I started on May the 9th, 1935, which was Bank Holiday Week, the Silver Jubilee of King George VI. I may mention that we had a bit of a bun fight, as we used to call it, in the park. And when we come out of the park, I said to my friend that I've left school now. I'm starting work at the Observer Office tomorrow morning. And so it was.
My name is Peter Mitchell. I'm 81. And I started working at F J Parsons in 1956 in the machine room. I was interviewed by Mr. Tidd as I just finished my national service, and he offered me a job as holiday relief, and I was there to the bitter end. So that's as much I can say about the holiday relief. I worked in the machine room, and I'd been there about 2.5 years, and I was asked to go down and work on the rotary.
We used to have to load all the paper onto the machines, being a machine assistant, and go and fetch the forms down for the printer to... we used to go to the case room, get the forms, and then we'd lay it on the flatbed of the machine, and the printer would do whatever he had to do while we were loading the paper. And then just generally keep an eye on the machine until it ran out of paper. And then we take it all off, and we take the form back to the case room, and then we had to what we called wash up, which was wash all the ink off all the rollers, generally keep the machine tidy. There was a bit of pride in keeping your machine tidy, you know, and we used to oil it every day and go round with cloths and clean it all up. It was sort of a matter of pride to keep your machine nice, you know.
When I'd been at the Observer Office a few months, they was on the lookout for line-up operators, and they sort of pounced on the younger generation, and the younger apprentices were all given time to practice after work on a Monday and Tuesday. I more or less was hanging on to the machine from that day onwards until I retired.
When they were printing the newspapers, from the machine room, it was reckoned we went down on the presses. And, you know, in the evening, because we were working all day on flatbed letterpress printing. Then in the evening, when the papers was run, we go down on the papers and take off, do the post and anything like that. So we worked on the letterpress in the daytime, the newspapers in the evening.
We all had style in those days. Every magazine really was set to a certain style. Hastings had so many roads and that in. We didn't make 2 words of it. We made it say Cambridge -road. It was their style, I suppose, and it was still their style to just after the war, before they stopped and made it 2 words like you write it, Cambridge Road.
It was superb. It was a wonderful firm to work for. Very happy days, even when I was in the machine room, when I went to the Rotary. And you mentioned earlier that families were started there. In actual fact, my family was started there because I met a girl in the binding, and we met. She was there before me, in actual fact, but we were married. She left in 1965 when we had our first child, and she never went back to printing.
It was a smashing job. My wife was saying, why don't I leave, because the state we used to come home in sometimes. But it was a job for life, as we thought it then. Fred Parsons was a smashing bloke. He did look after his workers. In fact, to give you a classic example, when my landlord offered, because my wife lived here before she was married, offered me the house, I went down and couldn't get a mortgage, so he just gave me gave me the money, lent me the money, no interest, to buy the house,
We've been married a couple of years. Yeah, we've been married about 2 years. Got our eye on a house, but the house was more, I couldn't afford the deposit. I was about 50 or 60 quid short of the deposit. Mr. Tidd sent me down to the Hastings Athletic Building Society, it was then, and I was told to go down there. I had a little interview down there, and the fact that I worked at F J Parsons was enough to get me that 50 or 60 pound to buy my house.
Of course, being general assistants, we were moved round every now and then to help out other departments if they were short of staff or anything like that. But then I got promoted to the warehouse, and they taught me to use a guillotine. And there's some stories about the warehouse you really want to know. The foreman was John Canini. He was a lovely fella from London, but he didn't have a clue, to be honest. He taught me to drive a forklift truck. Unfortunately, we went down into the basement and he got the forklift and he said, you press this lever here and it goes under the paper and you lift it up. But unfortunately, he put it too far and he lifted the radiator up off the wall as well. And so somebody else taught me how to drive a forklift truck. He was taken off for that, but he was a lovely character, John, but oh dear. Because it was such a nice family firm and we were all friends, weren't we?
Yeah.
We had inter-department rivalry with cricket, football, shove halfpenny, darts night, all sorts of things were organised. And I mean, when Mr. Parsons owned it, we had the White Rock. We used to have a dance and all free drink and food. It was a lovely firm to work for, it really was. It was that sort of friendship that lasted even after we got sacked, or made redundant.
And we were transferred up to Ponds Wood, and we were there for 2 or 3 years. I can't remember the exact date. And from there, I went to Burgess Hill after it was been taken over by Mr. Robert Breer. That's right, and we were transferred to Burgess Hill under the Southern Web Offset, and I was there for 6 years, and I left with early retirement.
I was made redundant from the Observer with only 10 months to go for 50 years. And that was 1984.
The last year of working life at Cambridge Road, we amalgamated, and then we all went on the same machine at Ponds Wood. And to be honest, the camaraderie finished then, really. It was very difficult, to say the least, yes. I'll say no more than that.